Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review of the 2019 horror film Ma, which to me personally was below meh. And I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from this film going in. The trailers didn't look amazing, but it looked like Octavia Spencer, it looked like she was going to be delivering a performance that was worth watching. And ultimately, that was the case. Octavia Spencer was great in this. She's the only reason why the film was even below average for me, other than maybe a couple of her performances and some other aspects of the script. But other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say about Ma, let alone have a lot to recommend to you when it comes to this movie. Uh, it's the epitome of a generic, forgettable, paint by numbers horror movie from Blumhouse. This is one of those films where it has a tepid, tired, unoriginal revenge storyline that you've seen done a million times and doesn't really do much to add new twists to it except for some really weird shit that I'll get to later. Um, the direction by Tate Taylor is serviceable, but nothing spectacular. It's about as run of the mill as you can get. The screenplay by Scotty Landis and Tate Taylor is in the same boat. It's as stale as a bag of month-old bagels, or it's just one of those things where it's just a very stale movie. It doesn't leave much of an impression on you while you're watching it, let alone after it's over. It's one of those movies where it's not quite bad enough for you to really rant on it and talk about how shitty it is, but it's also not really that good. So it's this weird in between point where it doesn't quite rise to average, but it also doesn't dip below average considerably enough to really say it's a bad movie. I can't say Ma is a bad film. Like I said, these things, the direction and the writing is run of the mill. It's been there, done that, but it's fairly competently done. There really isn't any examples of true bad writing or even bad direction. There's just nothing about either of those things that really elevates the film to another level or above its peers. I definitely think I don't know if it's rated R or not. I think it's PG-13. I don't think this is an R film. No, it was rated R. Wow, it's a pretty tame R. So this is apparently, I was really surprised this is rated R. Other than some blood, I guess maybe for the blood, but it wasn't for a lot of other subject material. This is a movie that is a really tame R, other than a bit of blood. I was honestly surprised this is rated R. So even even the score is generic. I mean, Gregory Trippy, the score is completely forgettable for the most part, except for one moment here or there where it tries to do an 80s Carpenter-esque kind of thing, and even then it sounds pretty generic. The cinematography by Christina Voros, it's there. The editing by Lucy Donaldson and Jin Lee, it's there. It's just one of those movies where a lot of my reaction is just, yeah, and that's why the movie as a whole is below average, because there's so many moments in the film where I'm just like, I mean, I'm just so indifferent about it. But I'm not indifferent about the performance by Octavia Spencer as Sue Ann. She did a remarkable job. She was wonderful. She was one of those characters that you learn to love to hate. She's got all this personality, and there were some moments where you genuinely were intimidated by her, and I just really enjoyed watching her work, especially in this kind of role. You could tell that she relished this opportunity to play a character that is against type, against the usual type of performances or characters that she's offered. Uh, you could tell that she enjoyed playing this villain, and I actually would like to see her do more characters like this because she's definitely capable of it. I just wish the film around her was better. I wish the film around her supported her instead of brought her down. Um, because really, what this film suffers from the most, other than the generic story, which doesn't really get anything going until like an hour into the movie, once Ma starts killing people, it's the characters. Other than Juliette Lewis's character, who played the mother of the main girl, Erica, everyone else was just nothing. They were nothing characters. They added nothing, and what they gave to the film was a net negative for me. I think a large part that's because of the script, but I also think some of these actors aren't really that good. Specifically, Diana Silvers as Maggie. I think she's honestly not ready for prime time. This is an actress who doesn't really have much of a range. She has no personality. She has no charisma. She might as well be a block of Duraflame. It's just one of those things. It's like there's really not much to her. She's a wooden plank, and a poor choice to be your lead. Everyone else just played a bunch of teen stereotypes, and a lot of them didn't even really look like they belonged in high school. Uh, so that didn't help either. I'm like watching these actors who clearly look like they're in their 20s or their mid 20s acting like they're high school students, and I'm like, shouldn't you be in college? Why are you hanging around teenagers? Um, but that's a problem that a lot of these movies have with teens. As the focal point, you have a lot of like 20 something actors playing these characters. So this film isn't alone in that particular area, but still, it's still something I noticed. But that's really not the biggest problem that I have with these characters. They're just so uh, weak, just weak characters. One of them is just a guy who's there to be the love interest, really. That's really all that character is there for. One's your token uh, African American or minority character, which is really, really too bad. I think the actor is capable of more, but he's given really nothing to do except be the black guy in the group. Um, I'm trying to find what the name of these characters these kids are again. Okay, Chaz. See, that's how memorable they are. I don't even remember their fucking names. Okay, Andy. Andy is the one that Andy Hawkins is played by Corey Fogelmanis. He's the love interest. He's the source of attraction for Maggie. He doesn't have much of a personality either. He has about as much personality as a wet sock, and that's saying a lot. The wet sock might have more personality. Uh, you have McKaley Miller who plays Haley, who's just the Gabby problem child of the group. She's just the rebel bad girl. That's really all her character is. Um, so yeah, a lot of these, like, you got Chiano Paulo as Chaz, Dante Brown as Daryl. Like, there's really nothing to these characters. There's just a bunch of stereotypes, a bunch of teen cliches, and the actors don't really have enough ability. let alone charisma to really make up for any of these cliches. It's okay if you're a teenage cliche in a horror film, but what you have to have is charisma or personality, something to draw the audience in, something to make the audience like watching you on screen, and that makes up for the generic aspect of your character. And there's nothing like that at all with these actors or with these characters. They're just going through the motions. I mean, you got Allison Janney in this cast, who's a amazing actress, by the way, who's just oozing with charisma, and she's just got a bit role as a vet, as the boss of Sue Ann at the vet's office. And she has like a few scenes, doesn't have really much to do. I guess she's just there to add to the body count and to pick up a paycheck, which sucks because she's such a talented actress. Like, why not give her more to do? I think that would be a good idea, but what do I know? Luke Evans, he's passable as Ben, but doesn't leave that much of an impression either. This film's kind of like, not kind of, this movie is like when you get rear-ended and there isn't much damage, but you got rear-ended. So it's one of those things, it's like you got rear-ended, your bumper got messed up, you got a little bit of a scare, but ultimately, in the long run, didn't really leave a whole lot of impact on you. So that's really how I would describe this film. It's just a light bumper to bumper collision. It's like 99 minutes long, but there are moments where it feels like it's longer than that. Especially when it's taking its sweet time to get to its revenge subplot. We know they're trying to be fancy with these little snippets of a flashback from Sue Ann's childhood, but you predict where it's gonna go. You might not predict exactly where it's gonna go and how it goes, but you know where it's gonna go. It's gonna be some kind of prank or something that happens in high school where she's humiliated and she's embarrassed, and it probably has something to do with the parents of these kids. Oh, what do you know? That's exactly what happened. So yeah, even though it tried to trick you with these snippets, it did not do a good job keeping you off the trail. And the only thing that it tries to do to make up for the genericness of the overall plot is have some weird shit like, Ma apparently, because she's a veterinarian, she's obsessed with like putting people on leashes and shit, because that's what the climax is full of, all these kids with leashes on. And then she does this really weird thing with Ben. The main focal point of all her anger and her frustration and apparently her problems in life is Ben, who humiliated her and embarrassed her when she was a kid in the 80s. So what does she do with the person that made her life a living hell? She ties him up in her bedroom. She hooks him up to an IV that has blood from a dog in it. Gives him a blood transfusion with dog blood. And says something like, "You're a dog. You've always been a dog. You're a dog now. You're nothing but a dog." And then she slits his other wrist. And he bleeds out. I'm like, what the fuck was the point of the dog blood? I mean, it just sounds like it's one of those things where the writers were like, we need to come up with something fucked up and weird that people haven't seen before. Well, Maggie has a dog. Well, how about she kills the dog and puts the blood in a blood bag and gives Ben a blood transfusion with dog blood. Sure, I guess. I guess that'll work. Haven't seen that before. There's a reason why you haven't seen it before, because it's dumb. It's dumb, and it's so weird that it's not the kind of weird that is interesting. It's the kind of weird that's just still kind of boring and dumb. It's like, that's weird, but it's not weird in a cool way. It's like, it's the kind of weird where you're like, that's weird because you clearly could not come up, you didn't have any original ideas left. You were like, dog blood transfusion. It's like they had like some ideas on a dartboard, and they were blindfolded, and they just threw darts at it, and one landed on dog, another one landed on blood, and then another one, and they were just like, dog blood. Well, how are we gonna kill him with dog blood? It's a blood transfusion, but that's not gonna kill him right away. She slits his wrists. She slits one of his wrists with a knife. Okay, then why the dog blood? It's this is what that's the thing that I carry away carry. If I can even speak, that fucking scene is, other than Octavia Spencer and her performance, is the only other thing I carry away from this movie. Is dog blood transfusion. And the climax, I mean, the fucking movie poster gives it away. Like, how often does that happen? Where your movie poster has a scene from the ending of the movie that shows exactly what's going to happen to all of your main characters. Pretty much. Not a sound marketing strategy and not a good idea. But yeah, it's just such a generic, below average horror film. Doesn't have a whole lot of thrills, doesn't have a whole lot of chills. The characters are weak. Other than Octavia Spencer, there's really not a whole lot of a reason for you to keep watching. If she wasn't in the movie, I definitely think this would have been a absolute dumpster pile. But the fact that she's in the film, it makes it so it's not total dog shit, but it's still not really that great. And it's still not, and like I said, I can't even call it average, because it's just so underwhelming in so many different aspects and in so many different ways. I guess I would recommend you check out the film if it's something that you're curious about, you like the trailer, it interests you. Because, who knows, you might end up liking it more than I did. But I don't really have a whole lot left I could say about the movie, to be honest. Except if I would rate it out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's a below average movie. I'm going to give it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Most of that is for Octavia Spencer. I also liked Juliette Lewis. I liked her performance in the film. There were some interesting stuff. I like the stuff that they were doing with Sue Ann's daughter. I liked that aspect. They didn't quite really explain some things that I would have liked them to. Like, maybe she's actually poisoning her daughter, making her weak. But actually, surprisingly enough, the most likable teen character in this movie was Sue Ann's daughter, Janney. And ultimately, she's the one that has one of the most heroic moments in the film. Other things I liked about it was, I did like the build-up with the whole thing where she comes across as this fun party mom who is endearing to the teens and lets them party in her basement and drink alcohol and everything. I did like that. There were some genuinely intense bits of acting by Octavia Spencer, but that ties into pretty much just her whole contribution in this movie, which is enormous. but still ultimately can't save the film. And I would say there's other elements too. Like I liked some of the aspects of the house that Sue-Ann was in, where you have the basement with all the party materials and everything, and it's set up like a honestly in a lot of ways like a frat room, a frat party room. And upstairs she's got this setup which is to keep her daughter from leaving her room that I liked. I thought it was pretty unique. What instead of like a typical sort of just a door or whatever, it has these I don't know if this is the right word for it, but kind of like banisters and a lot, it's railings. So when it has railings, railings that you see on a top floor of a house, well, those are all stacked on top of each other and they're like bars. And so I like that. I thought that was an interesting and pretty unique architectural quirk or addition to the film and to its production design. So I did like that, and it was also fun to hear some of the classic songs. I like the soundtrack. I like the music choices they had for the film. Uh, but really, that's about it. Everything else was just bland and more bland on top of bland. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you for your cooperation, and have a nice day.